because there have been already a couple of satsangs about Kashmiri Shaivism as preparation. So because of that, we decided that we rather let the people see one of those two satsangs. I hope many people did. If you did, now you understand a lot of things which I'm going to answer. If you didn't, it would be a very good idea that between now and Monday you watch at least one of those two satsangs which describes what Kashmiri Shaivism is. And this, we transformed it then into a session of questions and answers to make it more alive, not unilateral. If you'll have questions concerning Kashmiri Shaivism and concerning the lecture, one of the two lectures about Kashmiri Shaivism, then I'll be happy that we discuss about this, because it's the hot subject right now. Since Monday, we prepare for a beautiful marathon of 3 weeks of Kashmiri Shaivism, which has a lot of meanings. As far as most of you know, Kashmiri Shaivism is a double-edged sword, because on one hand, it is the top teaching of this school, and it is the top teaching of anybody who has heard about it, because we haven't found on this planet a metaphysical teaching. I'm sorry?
That's all good.
Okay, you're thinking with loud voice. It's fine. As long as there is no technical problem, you stop me if there is any technical problem. So, Kashmiri Shaivism is the top teaching. Nobody has found a higher one. Every time when people have heard about some super high teachings, a la Advaita Vedanta or a la Tibetan Tantra, Anuttara Yoga Tantra texts, or the Dzogchen tradition, or others, again, Buddhism, Hinduism, any other tradition, still it can be demonstrated quite conclusively that Kashmiri Shaivism is the supreme tradition among all those. Of course, many people take it as a provocation, as a challenge, as competition, as sometimes an insult. I hope open-minded people can simply study and make up their own mind and find out what is what and how things are. I have read my first things about Kashmiri Shaivism, I guess, in 1982 or somewhere around that time. No? And until today, I'm still claiming that Kashmiri Shaivism is the highest thing which I have ever studied or found in the metaphysical traditions of the world. At least out of snobbishness, I would have been very interested if somebody told me there is something which is the highest, I can show you the highest tradition. I would have gone to it and I've said, okay, I'm curious to see, even if it provokes me, even if it insults me, I want to see what do you claim that is the highest. So therefore, I studied all the traditions which were purported to be the highest, the best, the most esoteric, the most metaphysical, the most this or that. And I'm telling you still, after a lifetime of study of spirituality, that Kashmiri Shaivism is still the winner. Kashmiri Shaivism is the highest. Not only that we look at it because people say, maybe I'm not made for the highest, maybe there is something which fits to me the best, maybe I should be humble. While that could be true, what I'm saying here is the fact that Kashmiri Shaivism is also a revolution for the intellect and philosophy. It is a very, very perfect teaching which has been the fruit of centuries and centuries of metaphysical human experience. And because of that, in this workshop which is coming, and any one of you who wishes to study it in a mystical, practical, spiritual way, not just some Sanskritological scholarly way where you just handle some ideas from left to right and from right to left, and in the end you are left empty and without many answers. So for all those of you who decide to study it, Kashmiri Shaivism is a very, very beautiful answer to the fundamental questions. Because the fundamental questions can be answered in so many ways, and if you look at the way Buddha has answered the fundamental question, and if you look at the way in which Jesus is presenting the fundamental question, and if you look at the way in which Krishna is introducing the fundamental issues, and if the list could continue, we could go to Rumi in Sufism and others, then you are going to find out that it seems like they are talking about slightly different things. But if they talk about slightly different things, that is a tragedy, because it means most of them are wrong, because the spiritual reality can be only one at the highest level. Simply metaphysically, it can't be in a different way. And because of that, actually, we are saying in metaphysics, and Kashmiri Shaivism is a very good umbrella for that, that everybody is talking about the same thing. We are having oneness in spirituality, and just people express that in different ways. So, I recommend warmly that you watch at least one of the two lectures, satsangs, whatever they are, which introduce what is Kashmiri Shaivism, what is the Kashmiri Shaivism intro. There will be a very strong introduction to the matter, more technical, more focused on details in the workshop itself. The first day, actually more than the first day, the first 2 days are consecrated precisely to these fundamental issues, to really set the foundations of Kashmiri Shaivism, because after that you have to get the terminology and the contents, and after that you have to be able to actually do some practice, because spirituality without the practice is like just a beautiful theory. It's a fairy tale, but without any practical conclusion. So this being said, for many people, they have heard that Agama is one of the very few schools in this world that teaches the real Kashmiri Shaivism, the authentic Kashmiri Shaivism. And it can be found in other places on this world, but we in Agama, we think we've got one of the best qualities possible in this teaching, in the meaning that things are taught in the right percentage of metaphysics, theory, practice, intuitive understanding, and all that. And that's why people tell to their friends, if you really want to see something out of this world, if you really want to see something outstanding, you should once in your lifetime join this workshop on Kashmiri Shaivism, which happens every year in Agama, and which is very, very outstanding, very, very exceptional, very great in its quality. And this being said, I will now, relying on the fact that many people in Agama know, and there are some which are still curious, or there are many people who want to do it second time, third time, and also the fact that there have been satsangs and conferences online. Many people have addressed a few basic questions. Remember that the list of questions and the list of understandings is very big. It's much bigger than that, but they will be approached in the workshop itself, where they get a continuation into the practical issues. I have a list of questions here. There are a few people in physical presence in front of me, and always I try to make a peace between the fact that some people may have a question of their own, and there are some questions already addressed by people who are online or who have addressed it by email, and then we try to make a balance. So I'm going to look to see if there is any question physically, if anybody wants to start here with any question about this workshop or about Kashmiri Shaivism, and if not, don't worry, I have quite a long list here of questions already formulated. Since I don't see a show of hands here in the hall, I'm going to warm up the atmosphere with some of the questions. So somebody probably did not listen to the introductory satsang because it says, what is Kashmiri Shaivism and how does it differ from other schools of Hindu philosophy? Already the question is addressed in both a knowledgeable way, in a wrong way as well, because it is interesting that the person who asked this question knows that Kashmiri Shaivism can be compared to philosophy. There is a whole commentary made by Jagdish Chandra Chatterjee, one of the first academic students of Kashmiri Shaivism, followed by Jayadeva Singh, another of the academic students in the 20th century of Kashmiri Shaivism, who made this comparison because Abhinavagupta and some of the great spirits of Kashmir, they were highly intellectual, highly intelligent, highly knowledgeable, highly enlightened, and because of this they were also great metaphysicians and great philosophers. Perhaps comparing them with other super great philosophical metaphysical spirits of the earth, a la Ibn Arabi in the Islamic culture, or Meister Eckhart in the European Christian mysticism, and these are just a couple of names among a few other giants who have been there. And when you ask, how does Kashmiri Shaivism differ from other schools of Hindu philosophy? Jayadeva Singh and Jagdish Chandra Chatterjee, they say it very clearly to explain it from the very beginning. The word philosophy used here does not have the same meaning as the word philosophy used in Europe. When you speak about Immanuel Kant, the philosophy of Immanuel Kant has pretty much nothing in common with what we call philosophical aspects of yoga or the philosophy of Kashmiri Shaivism and the comparison. They wrote very nicely, indeed they found the right words for it, calling the Western philosophy armchair philosophy. That the philosopher sits in an armchair and just uses the power of his reasoning and intellect. It's not the same with the yogis who raise their kundalini and have higher states of consciousness, altered higher states of consciousness from the rising of kundalini and from the phenomena which result from that. That's why yoga and Kashmiri Shaivism, they are a philosophy in a way, because those people were great thinkers and they loved to formulate their conclusions in very clear philosophical and metaphysical concepts. But the philosophy of Immanuel Kant, like if you want to compare Kant with Hegel, just to take two German language philosophers, not to mention 60 others who were in about the same centuries, about in Europe, about the same time, how would you make the difference? Like, is Kant right or is Hegel right? Or is Schopenhauer right? Or is Nietzsche right? Or just to take the German language once again, there are many other philosophers, a la René Descartes or Blaise Pascal or others which come from other languages like French, Italian, English, Russian. No, I just called 4 German philosophers. How would you make a comparison? And are we just making a sort of competition of philosophers to see who is smartest? But for Abhinavagupta and those people from India, Kashmir in itself, it didn't matter if they were smart. It mattered only if they were right, if they had hit the bull's eye, if they were telling the truth. In the same way, Jesus, in his own inimitable style, Jesus is not trying to prove that he is smart or to make a complex philosophy and metaphysics. He all the time tells to the people, listen, truly, truly, and truly again, I say unto you this and that. Like he simply says, I don't want to bother you with philosophy. Surely Jesus could have been able to do philosophy, but he didn't want. He just wants to tell to people the truth. And people will say, maybe Jesus was wrong. I think Immanuel Kant was. That's nonsense. Immanuel Kant can't even tie the shoelaces of Jesus. He doesn't know anything about the truth when you compared him to Jesus. You know, although intellectually he is a very impressive person. And that's why this question is very beautiful, because it shows to us that there is something philosophical and metaphysical in yoga, in Vedanta, in Kashmiri Shaivism, even in the high levels of Buddhism and so on. But on the other hand, you should never forget what Jayadeva Singh and Chatterjee say: there is no armchair philosophy